Good evening. We're coming back from our recess from last night. Tonight, we're going to try to work at the differences that maybe we have as it relates to the budget. And I've been working today trying to put together numbers that I've heard from individual commissioners. And so what I'm going to do is start, if you want to do, you can do it one or two ways. You can go to page 289. I'm sorry, Brian.
Just if you don't mind, just one thing, the sheriff's office is here tonight. If there were some questions about communications from last night, they're here to answer those questions if the board has those questions initially, if you want to do that. I know Commissioner Booth had a question about some numbers with communications, so if they could clarify that for the board initially, and then y'all can do.
Well, let me ask you, are you going to stay the whole time, or you? It's on this sheet. We can go ahead and do it right now. The question that we got into last night is that, you know, we have peak times at the 911 center, and I don't know whether that's from 7 to 7 or 8 to 8. Instead of having 3 additional employees, could we get by with just doing 2 to try to improve what's going on and the workload?
Well, with that answer, so the peak, first of all, good evening. Thank you for having me. I appreciate your time. The peak hours for communication is about 8 to 9, 8 in the morning to 9 at night. But with that being said, could we get, so right now, I'm at an odd number with an IT transfer that we had. So technically right now we have 13 telecommunicator positions on the floor. So 2 would give me, I can work with 2 would be, but I would still get bare minimum with 2, because 2 we're looking at, 2 would cover those peak hours, correct? Like that would work for those peak hours, the 8 to 9 of the peak hours. But what I'm asking for with the 3 positions is for cushion. That's what I'm asking for, because with 2 it gives me still the bare minimum of the coverage. 3 would give me 4 on every shift. And yes, you're looking at, I understand, I know Commissioner Booth, last time we had talked about, you know, at 3 in the morning, we're not getting those numbers of calls. That's not our peak hours. But I promise you I could count on one hand how many times I would have actually 4 people sitting in that communications room. We have a high turnover rate. We have a turnover rate of 3 to 5 years. We have a burnout rate. We have people that are, right now, since January, we've been running every shift on one side of the house has had to have coverage, and that's using people for overtime. Those people on the other side of the house, 2 to 3 people I'm having to choose from to cover almost every day that they're off, to cover one side of the house for 6 months, because we have somebody out with an injury. We have somebody out on maternity leave. Then we have somebody out that's sick, and then we have somebody out on vacation. So for 6 months. So now, when those people do come back and we do get that coverage, now I've already burned out my only 3 people to choose from to get that. So when the deputies, when they're short on patrol, they have about 6 to 8 deputies that they can choose from to help cover those shifts. Me, on a good day, I maybe have 3, but my normal is 2. So on their days off, they're now working, and they've been working on their days off, you know, just for the past, I say 6 months, but 5 months in January. So 4 does sound like a lot, right? I understand that, and I get where you're coming from, but I don't know when I would ever have 4 actually working that shift. So what I'm really asking for with the 3 is the cushion for the turnover rate, the cushion. We're also using communications now more than ever as a recruitment tool for patrol. We have a lot of people where for patrol they can only start at 21 to be a deputy, but you can start in communications at 18. So I have 1 that just left me to go to patrol, and then I have 1 that's in training now. He's 19, but at 21 is already planning to go to patrol. So you have that type of turnover rate as well. With that cushion that I'm asking for, it gets it allows us to get people into training. Training takes 4 months for a telecommunicator, and that's because instead of patrol, they're BLET certified by the time they get there. So they're weeded out, they've taken the schools, they've taken the classes, they have the certification. I have to hire these people who's never done the job. They do a sit-in, they see for a few hours what we do, but they then decide, is this job for them? They then have to go to training for 3 to 4 weeks out of that 4-month training that we're already doing. So it takes me 4 months to get somebody trained. So when I do lose somebody, now here we are again for 4 months, short staff, trying to cover that, trying to cover it with 2 to 3 people, when that cushion would give me time to train people. It would give me time when I lose people for patrol, that type of stuff. Commissioner Walker?
Randy's got a question.
Walk me through the scenario. If you've got the 4 people and you get a call that involves a code, how many people in that room is going to be involved in that call?
So we've done our research and look, so for a code, like a CPR call, I'm assuming is what you mean. So a CPR call, and CPR calls can take up to 15 minutes at times, for when we start the call to when we hang up the call. So you have somebody who is constantly giving CPR instructions. They're counting along with the person, as you're pumping on somebody's chest. So that person's pretty much unavailable. If they have to take a call, you're now putting somebody on hold and telling them to hold on, do a good job, I'll be right back. You have another person who's dispatching out the call while they're taking it. They're getting all the resources there. You still have someone who's taking your normal calls that are coming in, and you have someone who's dealing with, so you have someone taking the calls that are coming in, you have someone giving the CPR instructions, and you have someone that is handling all radio traffic. And a CPR code can have up to, we dispatch law enforcement, we dispatch an ambulance, we dispatch a first responders unit, the fire department, and we dispatch a medic to that scene as
So
well.
all 4 people are involved.
Oh, absolutely. All 4 people would have a role to play in that scenario. But what we're experiencing now is we have 2 a shift who's trying to juggle all that. And you do have times where you're giving CPR and you're putting that person on hold because another 911 call is coming in.
Is there any other question as it relates to?
Now,
I've got some questions.
if you're funded these 3 people, you're not coming back next year and say, well, I know last year we said we needed 3, but we need another one.
Since I've been here for 8 years, going on 9 years, when I first started, it was 4 a shift. In the past, we had 4 per shift, and I would never expect, I haven't seen where we would need more than that. So, no, sir, that's not my plan at all. We don't even have that many consoles. We only have 4 consoles in the room, so I can't do that.
Y'all give us some numbers at one time, the number of calls that you handle in a year?
I don't have those numbers on me, but I did just pull some numbers for the county, and I was trying to remember what those numbers were. Actually, I think I pulled them for you. I think it was, I want to say, I don't want to give you the wrong, but I do have, I can pull up that number because I actually just pulled those emails.
The number that's related to EMS is right at 9,000.
Right.
But I know
do
that you're
remember
taking
that.
other,
And then, but the other calls, I want to say was around, I want to say 23, but I don't want to speak out of.
2,300 or 23,000?
I think 23,000.
I think that's 23. That would include law enforcement.
24,000 for the fiscal year, what was that? 22.
Okay, and so you got, what, an 8,500 hour year or something like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Other question?
The thing, let me promise you, I'm not going to try to micromanage your
I
department.
understand that, yes, sir.
But I find it very hard to believe when you go downtown Saturday night, Two Rivers and all them other places close at 9 to 9:30, And I find it very hard that in the scenario that you just gave Mr. Walker is somebody doing CPR. It may happen 5 times a night, but it don't happen every night. And I don't have a problem with you having your full staff during peak time. I can understand from 7 to, last night it was from 7 to 7, tonight it's from 7 to 9.
Well, I think it's different from I don't know where the 7 to 7 come from. Was that from EMS medical?
And I don't have a problem with that. But the other thing I had, you said that you're trying to, as a cushion. So if you're having it for a cushion, what's the need for 4 people? If you're just having it for a cushion, what is the need?
The need is to have,
To back up for somebody while
right,
they're
and
out
to be
sick
proactive
or
instead
won't
of
come to work.
reactive. Right.
Is that correct?
Say that again?
Is the cushion is for somebody that won't come to work.
Or
Is
that
that correct?
can't come to work.
Or can't come to work
Right.
for whatever reason it may be.
Right.
So actually, you really don't need them because of call volume. Am I correct?
For the most part, you're correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And just to say, so CPR, we went back, I think, 6 months, and we do have, I mean, it just depends. In 1 month, we could take 8 CPR calls. So, I mean, that number does fluctuate, just to talk about your CPR calls.
And if you would, please send me your numbers. When I was out there, they kept them for, was it 6 months? You had to keep those records. So how long do you have to keep them? 6 months, isn't it?
To keep calls, like 911 calls in general?
Yes.
We keep those, our records go back 2 years.
Okay, well, just let me know. I want to look at your peak, and then
I have peak hour, do you want to look
your
at the peak hours?
What is your weakest hours?
So I have something if you'd like to look at it.
Please, give it to all of us. I've been trying to get this for 2 weeks.
You can't see, so for us, we just got new software. So the information gathered there is just from June of ‑22 to March of this year. But those are, if you look at the blue graph is what you're looking at. And those are our average call volume per hour. And that's just calls, not radio traffic or anything like that. So you're correct. So at 3 in the morning, the average is 5 calls at 3 in the morning.
3 in the morning, you got 4 folks sitting there to get a call, a 3/4 of a call a person. Is that correct?
Sir?
At 5 in the morning, you got 4 people there getting 3/4 of a call.
Right.
Is that
And
correct?
what kind of calls are we taking?
I don't know.
What kind of calls are they?
And other thing I like to see, I mean, I appreciate the graph, but I like to see the numbers with the peak. I understand that you got peak hours, and you may, in the night, all hell may break loose tonight. You can't
Right.
predict that, but I just like to have it to make a decision that we can support what you're asking. Thank you.
Okay, just keep in mind, we're going through the expansion and any changes in the manager's budget. And just so the public understands, we're looking at requests to expand the budget a total of $3.4 million. So we're trying to make sure that we, in your case, that we attack the problem, but at the same time, when we get down to the number crunching, we may, instead of 4, it may be 2. It's kind of where
Yes,
we're
sir.
going. Is there any other questions as it relates to? Okay.
You indicated you've been here for 8 years in this role? How long in this role?
Not in this role, no, sir. In this role, I started interim in 21.
Okay.
So, 2 years, going on 2 years as director.
Did this problem exist in 2021?
Which problem is that?
This shortage of people?
Yes, sir.
It did? Because you had 2 more people.
Right. But was that with the IT person? Was
I
the
don't think
IT
so.
person moved
No,
by
I
then?
don't think it was the IT person. That's something relatively new.
Now, this
so-
is the shortest that we've ever been in the past probably year. We're just running 2
Okay.
shifts.
But so we all understand, that was a decision of the sheriff,
Okay.
okay? That wasn't the board pulling out
Right, I
2
understand
people.
that.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
The last sheriff.
Last year, yeah.
Okay.
Not the last one before the last.
I think I think you've answered the question that the day it had. We appreciate you being here, and I know that if you need to leave, you need to leave. So,
All right, thank you. I appreciate your time.
thanks. Brian, is there anything else?
No, sir.
Okay.
We're here to answer any questions you have, and he's got a spreadsheet like we did last time. We'll run that spreadsheet for you. I think Brandon is actually going to put up on the screen if you want us to.
Okay.
But we're at your call, so.
All right, in front of you, there's a spreadsheet that has 3 sheets to it. The first one is the expansion budget. The next sheet is the manager's changes. That would be changes to the manager's budget that was proposed. And then the last page summarizes the changes in the recommended budget for the schools. So without any further ado, we'll start on the expansion side, and we'll start with the very first one at the top is the pay study. And as in the past, it takes somebody to say, I recommend, and there's no second, and then we take a vote, and in order to move it forward, it takes 4 votes. So,
I recommend
okay,
pay study, fully funded.
all right,
I have a question about that.
yes.
Today, there was some stuff came out, email somewhere. What's the highest raise people are getting out of this? I saw something that people are getting as much as $10,000 increase.
No, that email was from Brian. It was addressing the question that had come up, could we legally cap the pay study increase to $10,000? And he got an answer from the lady or the group MAPS that did the pay study.
But how many people do we have that are getting as much as a $10,000 pay increase out of the pay study?
So the sheet that we passed out to you the other night that had all that on there, I think there are 13 positions that were significantly below market that were more than 10,000.
Any other discussion before we take a vote on it? Okay, all those in favor of putting the pay study into the expansion budget, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay,
Can I make,
yes, sure can.
my opposition comes from the fact that I wanted to see a cap at $10,000. And there's 13 people that are going to get raises over 10,000 under this plan. And so it was just my feeling that tomorrow, when this gets implemented, it is just very hard to tell the public that we're giving raises that are upwards of to $20,000. And I just can't go there, so.
Brian?
So just one thing, this is not going to be implemented tomorrow. As we said to the board previously, it will go in effect July 1. We've still got some work to make sure that we do. We've got to double check line item by line item that spreadsheet to make sure that the hire date, the promotion date, all those things are absolutely correct. And we'll continue to do that up until July 1. We know the top line number. The top line number is not going to change. It's not going to exceed that number, the 1.7. Benefits and everything. But we will have people leave. We will have new folks come in. We will have changes throughout the pay period until July 1. As of July 1, it will be implemented. So just want to clarify that. And I understand you and I had a conversation about the cap. So the question I had to the consultant was, is it appropriate to do that? And she said, I think that's okay as long as you make that uniform. If you cut a certain point and say anything above that, we're not exceeding, you're not singling out an individual, you're not singling out, you're saying here is the maximum that we feel we can do. So she felt like that was acceptable. And I would say to you that the methodology of the pay plan is uniform across all positions. And this year, which was different than we did in the past, as you recall, the last time we did a pay study, we were not able to fund it at a higher level. And when we did the prior pay study, we only looked at the time in grade of your latest position. We did not look at the entire time you had been with the county. And that caused some angst, some concern, both across the board for board members as well as employees, to say it didn't appear that we were valuing longevity. So when the pay period was put in place this time, we used a blended rate. And simply what that means was we looked at how long an employee had been with the county totally, and then we looked at how long the employee had been in their latest position. Took those two numbers, added them together, divided it by 2, and it gave a blended number to where they were then placed in the range based on that. So it gave credit for longevity. So that's the difference in this one compared to the last one. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but that was, and we had that conversation, so I just want to clarify that for the rest of the board. And that was some of the information that was sent out to the board this morning, because when that question got asked last night, I reached out to the MAPS group last night. She actually responded to me about 12 o'clock last night. So.
Just to make sure everybody's aware, all we're doing now is taking a straw vote to say whether it's in the proposed budget. We'll have to take a final vote, so anything is still subject to change. Okay? The next one is the increase in the 401K of $470,000. That's a 5%.
Actually, it would be 3 because you're already doing 2, so it would be a 3% increase to get everyone to 5, which is comparable
Okay.
to the Leo.
Sorry, I misquoted that.
And this would, and again, just to make sure that we're clear on everything, the total is 470,192, and the way we came about that number, this proposal is that, because currently you're statutorily required to put in 5% for LEOs. They don't have to put a dime in, but you're required to put in 5%. Currently, the policy for the county adopted by the board was the county would match county employees up to 2% on 401K. So if an employee puts in 1%, the county matches 1%, but it caps at 2%. This proposal would be to take it to 5%, but it still be a match. It'd still be a match. So the employee, if they put in 4%, the county match 4. If they put in 5, the county match 5. But the only way we could give you a number is to say every employee was maxed out at 5%. So that's why that number is what that number is. I guarantee you that number will not be that high if you approve this, but that's the only way we could give you a number. That's the worst case scenario of that number. So thank you.
I got a question.
Yes.
Mr. Manager, this is also on a voluntary basis. These are just floating numbers. Am I correct?
Yes, sir, it is. So nobody is required to contribute, but if they so chose to contribute under this proposal, the county would match them up to 5% so that you would be, in some instance, equal to what you're doing for LEOs. LEOs don't have to contribute anything at all, and you're required by law to give them 5%. That's in statute. So.
Well, I would say put it in there just to see how it go. I mean, employees, it's up to them whether they want to be part of it or not. So I would add it.
So you're making a recommendation to add?
Just a regular, yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's up to them to join it if they want it.
Okay. My comment is, and Brian and I had this conversation earlier, for the last 4 years or 5 years now, we've been pumping up the retirement. And that number is right at 1%. I think this year it's a tad under that. And, to me, that's part of retirement, and it's part of the fringe benefits. And I have problems until we're finished with that. Once we reach that plateau, doing anything on the 401K. That's my my opinion.
So if I could just comment on that. So the chairman's comment relating to that, so everybody understands, in the local government retirement system, and we're under local government retirement, not teachers and state employees retirement system or judicial system. This is local government system. It's managed by the state treasurer's office. And for years, they have overestimated their returns. They said, we're going to get 6%, 7%, 8% returns, and they haven't. Several years ago, when Treasurer Falwell got in place, actually the rating agencies came to the state and said, you need to start using the correct number because you're overinflating your return number. And when you overinflate the return number, then you're messing with the actuarial studies. So he changed that number to say this is a more realistic expectation, which then dropped the status of how fully funded the plan was. So it dropped to 92, 93%. Well, they want it as high as they can funding-wise. So he set about working with local governments to say we want to increase that to get back to a more fully funded retirement plan. And in doing that, the only way that the state treasurer's office can adjust that is they have the ability to adjust the employer's contribution. There are two contributions that come into that system. The employee contribution, statutorily, that is set at 6%. Right now, I want to say it's 11%, 12% for general government employees that the employer has to contribute, and then for law enforcement officers, it's even higher amount that the county, that employers have to contribute. The state treasurer's office can make that recommendation to the retirement board to change that, and then you have to do that because you're a part of the system. In order for the employee to contribute more, because we've asked that question, I sit on the retirement committee for the County Managers Association, and we've had conversations with the treasurer about that. In order, because what we said was eventually they're going to say, well, wait a minute, employees need to start contributing more than the 6%. The answer we got back to that was the General Assembly has to pass a bill that would change that percentage and increase that for all employees. And they would probably do that. If they were going to do that, they would do it for teasers, for elders, for judicial, for everybody. And Treasurer's Office said they're not going to do that. So the burden is more, as the chairman said, on the employers, and that has gone up. Over the last couple of years, it's been incrementally increasing in an effort by the state treasurer's office to more fully fund the program and stabilize it. The concern we have with that from a managers association that we've expressed to the state treasurer's office is we understand what you're trying to do and we support what you're trying to do. However, it didn't get in this condition over the last 5 years. It took 30 years to get in this condition. Don't try to fix it in 5 years. Fix it over a 20-year or a 30-year time frame. Don't compress that. But they've tried to compress it. And if you know the state treasurer, he originally came in and fixed the unemployment piece, and they fixed that really quickly, and it was a lot of money. But that's his philosophy. I want to get it right. I want to get it fixed. I want to get it fixed quick. So that escalation has been a little more than probably what it could.
Okay. Any other commissioner got a comment? All right, we'll take a vote. Did you have?
No.
Okay, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of putting in the 3%, did I get that right? And the total is $470,192. Raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, dental insurance. Okay, we got a recommendation. Questions or discussion?
Do I understand that someone said that the counties around us carry dental insurance? That's pretty true?
Yes, and they pay for the employees' portion of the dental insurance, our peers.
I think somebody's made the comment that we're one of the few counties left in North Carolina that does not provide dental coverage.
Not sure about statewide, but certainly in our peer group, when the study was
Okay.
done, we were the only one that did not cover for employees.
Any other comment?
Only thing, I would support this, but I'd like to know what kind of coverage did it, what kind of coverage did it do? I mean, some of them, like the one I have, I pay $50 a month, it ain't worth 5 cents.
And it's capped at 1,000.
Yeah, it ain't worth 5 cents.
That's because of your age, Ed.
Well, it might be, I ain't got 17 teeth either, but the thing about it is, it's still $50 a month.
If you have a crown, you eat $1,000 up real quick, I can tell you that. Yeah. Any other comment on dental?
Excuse me, have anybody looked at the coverage that?
So our coverage is a fixed benefit as well.
That's the standard.
Sounds a lot like yours.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fixed benefit as well. There are two policies I think you can buy up, like for the orthodontic
Okay, I got it.
care. They do allow you to roll over to the next year if you don't use all of it, but it is a fixed, I mean, it's a percentage, but it caps out at a certain amount, so.
Okay, thank you.
You ready for a vote? Okay, all those in favor of adding dental insurance, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay. All right, the next one is DSS. We've been asked to consider adding $5,000 once a person gets their master's degree, and we pick up 50% of that, and the state would pick up the other 50. The estimated net cost to the county would be $12,500.
I move.
Okay, we got a motion. Questions, discussions, I mean. No discussion. All those in favor of the, adding the master's degree bonus, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, the next one is to add 4 income caseworkers. Total amount, or the ask amount, is $248,960. This is because of the Medicaid expansion and the additional workload or cases that they would have to work. And this is offset by the expansion dollars, so that it would be zero net cost to the county. Did I say it right?
Initially, yes, sir. So the way, and I think Melanie talked about that at the expansion request, that was it 3 years? 2027. The state budget in the bill that expands Medicaid includes funding up until 2027, and then whether they add some additional money in that time frame, but it sunsets in 2027.
Your percentage is 100% or 50/50?
It would be 100% until 2027, and as I recall, after 2027, it would go down. The county share would be 25%, and federal and state would be 75%.
And we can always pull it.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion. Further discussion. Okay. Take a vote. All those in favor of the 4 income caseworkers, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Thank you. The next item is under DSS, and that's to add 1 income caseworker, and the cost is $68,701, and here again, that's funded with partnership with the state, so the net cost to the county is $34,351. And as we heard from the discussion, this is primarily to make sure we don't get caught, and we improve our position as it relates to audits, because if you remember, we signed the memorandum of understanding with the state, so we're responsible to make sure we protect the program's integrity. So I think that's an important position, and I'll recommend that. Discussion. John?
Like I expressed to Melanie originally, that it should be the job of every caseworker to be in charge of the quality. To put one person there, I think, just lessens the responsibility on everybody else, as they can look back and say that person's now responsible for the quality, and I would not support it.
I'm trying to remember, is this position strictly, I just put in the comments, improve the audits. Was this employee going to do kind of an internal audit on the other employees?
They're going to do a quality control check as well.
So on page 297 in your expansion book, you'll see that write-up. And it is for quality control, to ensure quality control for all income maintenance Medicaid programs. We're requesting income maintenance caseworker 3 to be able to review and monitor records to determine common error trends, prevent errors in future audits. Supervisors face a challenge of reviewing large amounts of records due to the increased demand for staff. Monitoring daily reports is a huge part of the supervision for income maintenance workers. So they're asking for someone to help just to do that. And as you recall, if and when we make mistakes, we have to pay those back.
Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor of adding the one income caseworker to net cost of $34,351, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, the next one is under animal control, and this is a new program based on our success with the cat program that we adopted last year. They're asking for $10,000, and hopefully this will reduce the workload and the number of animals that would appear.
I'd like to have that added.
Okay. Other comments? Okay, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of adding the $10,000 for the dog, I get it mixed up. Make sure a dog is the right word. Last year we did the cats. So all those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Did you vote?
Yeah, but I ain't crazy about it, but I did.
Okay. Did you get his yes vote? I didn't see his hand.
Yeah, see my hand.
Okay.
So Commissioner Booth, with that, you get a free dog.
If it's a lab, he'll take it.
What was the numbers last night on the cats? We reduced the number by 2,400?
But they knew this about my house, there's still 3 or 4 running around there, running all over everything.
Well, you need to put their number on speed dial.
Yeah, you're right.
Mr. Chairman, I told Commissioner Booth he was a city folk now, and that's why.
Right, Brian?
Okay, now we're down to court facilities, security. They've asked for a 5%, no, they've asked for an additional 3% increase. The contract,
So the
okay.
contract is a 3% escalator, and they asked for an additional 2 for their employees for inflation and
Okay.
cost of living.
Is there any recommendation on that?
That's already, we already,
The 3% is locked in, is in the budget, is in Brian's budget.
2 more.
This is to add 2 more.
I'll do it, yes.
Okay, you got a recommendation?
Yes.
All right, we'll take a vote. I'm assuming we don't have much discussion on this. We'll take a vote. All those in favor of increasing it another 2%, which will bring it to a 5% increase, raise your right hand. Those opposed? All right, the next one is EMS, Blunt's Creek. That request was for $67,171. I'd like to comment on that. I think we're at the stage in our EMS program where we need to bring in an outside party to help us analyze and take a look at the way we're funding EMS with the different districts and with our EMS tax. I'm not saying that we don't need to do something in Blunt's Creek, but I think we need to spend some time trying to address some of the issues that pop up every year during the budget process. And sometimes they pop up in between. So I'm recommending that we try to handle that with a study. Hood?
Well, look, you're still subsidizing Chocowinity. All you have to do is have Chocowinity do what they were supposed to do to begin with and what they're getting the money to do, and that is to make these calls. Because right now, the Board of Commissioners has voted to allow Chocowinity to compete with the ambulance transports and to make money. And they very clearly said to us the other night that the peak period is during the time that Chocowinity is making money to put into their coffers, and they're not supposed to be doing that. It's not fair to the county, it's not fair to the rest of the EMS districts, and you're doing a subsidy to them already. Just pull the subsidy back and this problem goes away.
What subsidy are you talking about?
When we allow them to use emergency personnel to make transports that they collect money for, when they should be making emergency service calls.
Are they not making emergency service calls?
They're making fewer emergency service calls because part of their personnel are operating ambulances that are transporting people in competition with the people that do the transports
Well,
in the county.
they've got 2 full-time ambulances that are staffed 24/7. Okay? The third transport truck is separate from that, and they're not taken away from the emergency EMS calls.
Well, they did take away when it was done initially. I don't know what they're doing now because it was done with the permission. The commissioners had to vote to allow them to do that. So all I'm saying is you've got the solution right here in the taxpayers' pockets.
There's nothing out of the taxpayer pockets that's coming out of right now for Chocowinity.
Okay, guys,
Yes, there is.
the question that's on the table is do we want to put that request into the budget? So I'm gonna ask for a vote. Does somebody recommend that?
I got a question now. I mean, I understand, well, Mr. Chair, I understand what you're saying, but you know, when you do these studies, I mean, you know, it got a cost to it.
Yes.
And the last study we done, I don't know whether you was here or not, when we first started doing EMS, we didn't do what they recommended at that time. That's the reason you're having the problem that you're having now. So if we do this study, and it recommend that we do 8 people or 9 people, are we prepared to meet that obligation? That's the problem I have with doing studies.
Well, I understand. Does anybody, I mean, I'm asking so we can move on. Is there any recommendation to do anything in this budget?
Do the study.
All right. The next one is a request to add 4 full-time paramedics at a cost of $256,329. And I've got the same problem with that I do with Blunt's Creek.
Come here.
Yes.
One of the things that we heard was that part of this need comes out of the fact that they're having difficulty filling positions. And this pay study that we just did and you all authorized, I would think is going to help that significantly because it's going to put us in line with everybody around us. So people aren't going to be leaving us to go someplace else because it's not going to be greener on the other side. So I'm not sure that we need to rush to be putting more people on to solve a problem that may not exist.
Other comments? I think you're right. Just for the public record, we're spending $450,000 plus or minus for overtime and part-time help as it relates to EMS. And we've got some savings, but I don't know that anybody wants to say, you know, we're going to save $90,000. I think there was an estimate maybe of 60. But my experience when it comes to overtime is that even if you think you can reduce that by adding additional employees, it just doesn't work. You still end up with overtime. So I think this is another one that should, and based on the number of calls for 21 and 22, there's been very little change. I think the biggest problem is the fact that it's the job market. It's the retention and the competition that hopefully the pay study will solve some of that. But Also think it's a supply and demand when it comes to the employees as it relates to EMS. So nobody's going to make a recommendation, all right? The next one is under Public Works, and that's to add one additional maintenance tech. The cost for that is $55,000 for salaries, fringe benefits, and equipment. Okay. Questions, comments? Yes, John?
Based on what we heard, I guess it was last night or the night before, last night, the average amount of work orders is 30 per person per month, which puts it a little bit over 1.3 work orders a day per employee. I'm not sure that that's, I mean, it seems to me that some of that is going to be really easy stuff and some's going to be harder stuff, but to say that we can't handle that volume,
Well,
that's
I would
a problem.
I would make one comment. As it relates to the sheriff's office, we've been doing some changes in there, and I think we've been doing all that internally. Is that correct, Christina?
What's been done today,
Then internal,
as well as at DSS.
yeah.
Y'all done a good job at DSS.
Okay, we got a recommendation. Any other comments before we vote? All those in favor of adding one additional employee in Public Works, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Thank you. The next item is under Cooperative Extension. That's the longevity pay that we have discussed before, and we're being asked again to consider that, and I'm going to make the recommendation that we add that to the budget. Comments? Okay, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of adding longevity for the Cooperative Extension employees, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Thank you. Okay, we're down to the Board of Election, salary increase for the director and the assistant director. That request was for $19,949 for the two. That is in the pay study. There's a recommendation in the pay study which includes an increase for both of those. So I guess it gets back to some of the discussion we had on the pay study. We hired an outside person. They came in and took a look at it, and they've made a recommendation for the increases. So my thought is that we should not do anything above what's in the pay study. Disagreement?
I got a question.
Yes.
Mr. Manager, doing the pay study, was it we anywhere close to what the Board of Election was asking for?
So in one of those positions, it was fairly close. The other position, it was about half. And the reason is the methodology. The methodology that was used in the pay study was uniform across the board. Every employee was judged based on that methodology. The methodology that the Board of Elections used was they took the starting salary of the position, the ending salary of the position, and they divided it and said, for every year you're here, you ought to get this much. That's not the way the methodology of the pay plan was. So theirs was more a linear, assuming that you would progress from the start of the pay period to the end of the pay period within a 30-year period. And y'all seen in the study, our pay plan is not set up to be that accelerated.
Any other comment? Okay, nobody's making a recommendation. Hearing none, we'll move to the Board of Election. They're asking for an increase for the precinct officials, and that total cost is $5,250, and that's per election. Is that correct, Brian? Anita?
I'm second.
Okay. All right, we'll vote. All those in favor of accommodating the increase for the precinct officials, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, the next one is additional increase on an hourly rate for the personnel handling the voting. And this is per election cycle too, I'm assuming, 3,300 is that cost? And as you well know, on both of these, we're getting really tight and at the last minute having people say, I'm not going to show up the next day, and some of them don't call until the next day. So it can affect our ability to hold election in some of the precincts if we don't be a little bit more competitive.
I move.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that $3,300 request, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, the next one is the 911 center, and I don't know, I guess that 3 was it 3 in there for 176,000? Have I got that right, or is it 4?
It was, the request was for 3.
For 3, okay. And that costs us $176,214. They didn't put an offset. I just estimated an offset. They pay in overtime and part-time, it's 140-some thousand in a year. And I just feel like that if we do it, we should have some savings. And I kind of pulled that number out of there.
Could you table that till we get the numbers?
I think they're reluctant to say. They had zero savings.
Yeah, so we're always going to try to give you worst-case scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, you may pick up some slight savings on overtime, but I would be afraid to give you a hard number because just as sure as that happened, you'd have 3 or 4 folks go out on extended medical or something, and you'd burn through your overtime budget.
Well, I'm just like Ed. I feel like that there's a need, but I don't feel like that we need 4, that we need some additional, 3, some additional help to cover some of the peak periods. And it sounds to me like that they're also, during the peak times, they've got people that are doing input of case, I forget what the term was, but they're inputting on the computer some of the requirements that are by the state. So, any recommendation on that? If you did 2, and you wanted to add the 14 back, that'd be 117,000.
Mr. Chair, in order, after the lady could get me the numbers tomorrow, I'd like to look at it, I'd like to put it back up for further discussion.
But what are we going to ask so that Brian or Anita
I
can?
just want to, I asked them, not asked them to show me the numbers. I asked them to show me the numbers of the peak times and the week times. I mean, like I said, I'm not trying to micromanage their office, but I want to put the people in position to do what they're supposed to do and not to be a cushion. That's what I'm saying. I mean, she need them at a peak time. At a peak time, I'd hate for them not to have it. I really would. But I'd like to have some more numbers.
Okay.
I don't want to, I mean, you just done it and we didn't get a motion. I just don't want it to die on the vine without us looking at it.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So what additional information I mean, I know that they're here and
I see the chart. She gave us a chart. She gave us a gram here. But this gram is just, it don't have no time, don't have no nothing. It just have a up and down.
Well, is this not across the bottom? Is that not the hours during the day, or am I?
That's the hours.
That's the hours during the day.
I got you. There you
So you're looking at peak time at 9 o'clock through military time of 18, so that's 6. Yeah.
I'll move for 2.
Okay, we got a recommendation to do 2. Any more discussion? John?
Was the tech specialist there 2 years ago or 3 years ago, or is this an ad? Because there's now 2 tech specialists in the sheriff's office.
right, so So there was always as I recall, there was initially a tech specialist position that was essentially working with 911 that helped them because they've got with the CAD system and all that. And then there was a change, there was a request by the sheriff's office under the prior administration to reclass a position to another tech specialist because of all the additional other stuff they do with tech work, body cameras, in-car cameras, all the other stuff. So there's essentially, and I'm not speaking for the sheriff's office, but the way I think I understand it is you got one person who's essentially dedicated to 911, dealing with all the 911 issues. And then you got one person who's dealing with all the other tech-related stuff for the field officers and the jail and those kind of
So
things.
they've always had two.
They have not always had two.
Well, I mean,
they had one originally,
and
then
it
the
was
sheriff's
dedicated
office-
to the communications.
Well, it was fairly dedicated to communication, but it handled everything in the department, and
So
they
they
felt
had-
like they needed one more specifically related to that, and the sheriff came and asked from the prior administration, and the board said, okay, reclass that to a tech specialist.
Okay. But I'm going to go back to the point that I raised earlier, which was that was the decision of the sheriff to reduce the telecommunicators by 2 back in 2000, under the prior administration.
That's correct.
Okay.
The prior administration did move some people to put more people on the road, and in order, I mean, just to call it clearly, in order to move that back, they'd have to take people off the road. And
It takes the people from someplace. Right.
Other comments?
I'm for 2. This is where you start saving lives. I mean, that first phone call, and I imagine everybody is just on pins and needles until, because I've done CPR, and you can only do it for about 8 minutes, 5 minutes. It's exhausting. So you do need somebody that's there talking them through, and I'm going to go with the 2.
Anyone else? All right, call for a vote. All those in favor of adding 2, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay. Okay, the outside agency, we had a request from Bath for 2, Bellhaven for $9,200, and Chocowinity $1,800. I'm going to recommend that we consider that on the next page and try to do something for each one of the 7 municipalities. We've stuck with the same number for at least 8 years, and we bumped it on an individual basis for capital for different municipalities. But I think we need to take a look at doing something different for all 7 of them. So I'm going to ask that we consider that when we get to the next page.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a stupid question?
Yes.
So the previous motion was failed for 2 positions. Was there a consideration of 3
What,
now?
it
Was there a consideration for 3 now? No? Okay, thank you.
No, recommendation or to get it to where you voted, it was for 2, add 2. All right, the Aurora Fossil Museum is asking us to increase their allowance by $2,000. Do I hear any comments on that? Okay. Ready to vote? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, DHM Library has asked for a 2% increase. The total is $4,487. Can I get a recommendation? Okay, we got a recommendation. Any comments? All those in favor of the increase for DHM Library, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay. Highway 17 and 64 Association, they've asked for a $5,000 increase. Who's on our board? Is that you, John, and Brian? On the highways?
I think I am.
Are you on there? Okay, okay. I guess I'm looking for anybody that,
Never been to a meeting.
is anybody want to comment? Okay. Is there a recommendation to increase that? Did you, John?
I got to call into question the regular funding that we do. And I don't know if you want to go back to that later or what.
No, it's on the table right now, so.
So in addition to the request for expansion, there's $25,000 that's in the budget already for them. And I question what the value is we get for our money. The extension of it north to Williamston was largely done because of Kidwell.
Oh, my Jesus.
What was it?
Huh? Because they were pulling it out of the budget.
No, that's
It moved up in priority, I guess is a better way to put it, John.
Okay.
Moved up in priority.
well, you don't get that cheap.
Yeah, you
No? Okay.
Kool-Aid, John.
Yeah, right.
Well,
So, you know, so you think you think this Highway 17 Association made it happen?
I know the lobbying that's been done over the last 15 years made it all happen. Yes.
Okay, okay.
It wasn't-
Well, you got it, cheese too.
You're going to make my first meeting a doozy.
Randy, so that you go and you're a little prepared.
Right.
I think that it moved up in priority, and Keith Kidwell might have done that, but it moved up in priority because they're trying to do the interstate highway that connects eastern North Carolina with the Hampton roads
That's right.
to the port. So,
I don't disagree with you.
okay, so
I mean, that's,
does it, nobody wants to increase it, okay? Is that, all right? The citizens of Southside has asked for $1,000 to complete their walking trail.
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay. Eagles Wings has asked for a request to increase, for us to increase that by $3,000 their budget, and as Ann reported last night, that's to help fund the cost of Aurora and Chocowinity, the addition of those two locations.
So moved.
Okay? All those in favor of increasing that by $3,000, raise your right hand. Those opposed? All right. Zion Shelter has asked for an increase of $2,000, and I think now we're doing 10. Is that?
yes.
I'm trying to, okay. All those in favor of increasing that by 2, raise your right, well, did you recommend it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, raise your right hand if you're in favor of increasing that 2,000. And those opposed? Okay, now this is a new request by Safe Harbor, and that request is for $3,000, and that's to pay for hotel expenses for the homeless that does not fit in some other nonprofit category. Do I hear any comments, motion on that?
So moved.
Any comments? It's a new program. All right, all those in favor of the $3,000 for Safe Harbor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Thank you. The next one is a new request for Open Door Community, and that's to increase their capacity, and they're asking for $4,000, and that's for homeless as it relates to women and children. All those in favor of that increase, raise your right hand.
You can put me down.
Those opposed? Okay, the next one is a request from the Recovery Court. We funded that, I think, under the initial program, $10,000 over a 2-year period, over a 3-year period. So we've done that in the past. They're asking us to continue funding at $10,000. I've been to the graduation, and based on what I've seen, I think it's a good program and is helping with some of the people that have a terrible drug addiction and is their last chance to stay out of jail. So I'm going to make that motion to do 5,000. Comments? All those in, did you say?
Well, they're asking for 10, right?
Right.
Is there any reason we're not going to vote on 10?
Okay. Well, whatever you do it.
I'll make a motion to recover for the $10,000.
Okay.
So this is just a continuation of the 10,000?
Yes, no increase, just.
But the reason it's on here is it's not in the budget.
Right.
The manager, it's not under the manager's budget.
So it's essentially a new funding request because a couple of years ago they came in and they're doing the exact same thing. They asked you for money last time to match up against a federal grant. They're asking we went a year without that, then they're asking to do it again. So it's matching up, trying to match up against a federal grant at 10, just like they did last time.
Okay, so 10 is the recommendation. All those in favor of doing 10 for the recovery court, raise your right hand. Those opposed. All right, the last one under the expansion is a new request for green lamp of 25,000.
I move for that, and I'll start the discussion on that. I see what you put down here, they have an $8.4 million budget, but I need to say that part of that is Head Start. Part of it is Head Start, early Head Start, and it's for Lenore, Green, Potter Pitt, Beaufort, and Martin. And so once you deduct what they are getting for Head Start, early Head Start, the budget is not as large and expansive as you think it is. But what I want to offer is and suggest is that because we have opera money, they give them a grant of a one-time, it's $25,000.
Pulling it from this budget.
Pulling it from this budget.
Okay, so the recommendation, making sure you understand, is that that needs to appear on the agenda. We can do that.
Monday?
So we still got to put it in the budget.
Right.
I mean, it would still have to show in the budget. We would show that as an expenditure, and we could say that you're using, I mean, you would be using fund balance to do that, because remember when we got ARPA money, we took some of that and set it aside. The only money that you have for ARPA right now that's designated money is the broadband money, and then some money you designated for water sewer projects and the storage facility we hadn't built yet. So you've designated some of that. The remainder of that money, we offset, we supplanted, which was allowed by law, we supplanted our public safety staff, our public safety numbers, and then we allowed that to roll to fund balance. So there is funds available, but we would need to show it in the budget because we can't spend anything. It has to be in the budget to be spent. So, but we could say that that's designated as ARPA funds out of the fund balance.
Okay. Now,
That's cool.
the,
We still got to vote on it?
no,
Okay.
that'll be us. Well, you're saying that,
We would need direction from the board because it has to be in the budget to be able to spend it. We can't spend money outside the budget.
okay. I guess my concern is with the budget that they have, if we give them the 25, how do we keep it in Beaufort County and benefit the homeless that we have here, Jerry?
Yeah, it's going to be earmarked specifically for Beaufort County. Every dime will be spent here in Beaufort County, and also, and I have to preface this now that I'm a board member of the Green Lamp Community Action, so therefore I can tell you every dime that's spent in Beaufort County, you will have. Okay, I'm sorry. I've been talking the whole time without the mic. I'm a board member for Green Lamp Community Action, so therefore I would say this: the money will be specifically spent here in Beaufort County, and I can guarantee you every dime that's spent in Beaufort County will be accounted for, and we'll have documentation for you.
Would would it be fair to ask you if we can have that earmarked specifically for the homeless or not? I mean, or have you got a recommendation?
No, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, is all those in favor of the green lamp allocation of $25,000 specifically for homeless in Beaufort County?
That comes out of ARPA money.
Yes. Those opposed? All right, now we're open for anything else. I think it saves us a lot of time to include any other request on the expansion as it relates to outside agencies. Anything that we're missing here, then let's put it on the table. This is the end of the list that was in the official budget. No, that's under the enterprise.
Okay.
We'll address that.
Mr. Chairman, is now the appropriate time, we pulled $25,000 for a one-time thing for, it's not an expansion budget, but it's in the budget already. It's now the time to discuss how we're going to spend the $25,000 that was once allocated to Agape.
That's on the next page because that's in the budget, in the recommended budget.
Okay.
But if it relates to an outside agency, okay, all right. Is there anyone else?
Is now where when we start talking about the school?
We're going to get to that. Does the manager or Anita, do you have any questions where we're at?
The only question I've got is the items that flow across that you approved, and those items would be pay study and dental. Those flow automatically across to solid waste and the water department and water. And then you still got a couple of enterprise items that you may want to consider.
Yeah, let's remind me before we finish that we've got the two enterprise budgets to make changes to. John just asked me, I think, that same question. Is there anything else that the staff needs from us as it relates to the expansion budget? Okay, do you guys want to keep going, or do you want to take a break for 5 minutes before we go in? 5 minutes? Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break. Okay, we're back. If I can have your attention, we're back, and Randy has a request, so I'll refer to Randy.
Mr. Chairman, throughout my career with the fire department and EMS, but before that, I had a scanner, and I've got 4 or 5 scanners now. They're on all the time. So I know what the radio room does, and I know what they go through, and I'd like to go back to this, and let's see if we can get one operator in there. And let's go back and do that, because I think they can make it work.
You're going to make a recommendation?
I'm going to make a recommendation for one operator.
To add one, and that number is $58,766.
If you say so.
I just took the 176 and divided it by 3, so. All right, any other comment? All those in favor of the addition of one in telecommunications, 911 center, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay. Did you get that, Brian or Anita? Okay, the next page is the changes in the actual budget that the manager proposed to us. And it's broken down between the schools, outside agencies. So it's the second page. It should be 23-24 manager's budget changes It's in the stack where you had three stapled together.
I got it.
Okay. In the manager's recommended budget of 900 was to increase that 6.2%, and the dollar amount was 904,403. And what you see here is I went through and picked out what the request was, and then the plug number is under coaching increases, and that number is 30,000. So the salaries and benefits, a 5% increase is $308,294. The bus driver's request for $364,000. The utilities increase in cost for utilities, $176,956. The facilities use study of $25,000, and then the plug figure of $30,153 for a total of $904,403. That's what's in the manager's budget, okay? And had a request by Randy to consider the coaching increases and the athletic director's increase. And so when you look under the increase column, that would require $26,140 for the coaches, and it would require $60,810 for the athletic directors. And so when you added that together, the operating budget, if it's approved, would go to $991,353. Now, recommendations, questions?
I move.
Okay.
I got some. No, go ahead.
Discussion?
No,
No.
let's wait.
Well, maybe I've got some explanation, I guess.
Okay.
You know, in the coaching increases, it started out at a low number, but then the school board or the school officials started thinking that it wasn't fair to treat it on a per person base, well, on a per sport base, no, on a per person basis instead of the per sport basis, and it only included high school. So they got to thinking that, you know, there were some coaching that, or some sports that were canceled because they couldn't find anybody to coach in the middle school. You know, the middle school is a great feed for the high school, and so we really need to, you know, keep up with that. You know, my sister-in-law coached cheerleading for years, and they won state competition, and they won conference championships, and they did a really good job. And she took it upon herself to figure out what her hourly wage was one year, and it was 9 cents an hour. And I think one thing that COVID has taught us is the term of living wage. And these figures have not been adjusted in many years. And we've had some really good, talented people that would come in and say, I want to coach baseball or I want to coach football. And once they found out what we paid, they said, I can't do it for that, and they go back. And so you got to understand that Martin County, even Hyde County, Bertie County, all of them pay more than we do for the coaching. So this really helps to go ahead and boost it up to the 26,140 additional. And then when you start talking about the athletic directors, they actually only get paid for 11 months of the year. So there's one whole month that they work. And that's generally July, and that's when they're doing all the work for football. And they have such an important job of drug testing. And they, you know, line up all of the games and the referees and stuff like that. But they literally, for all these years, have worked, you know, for 1 month for free. And so this puts them on a better level playing field, I suppose. So that's why I would like to see it, because I'm very involved with the coaching. I don't get paid, but I've been doing the video for Washington High School for many years now, so I'm aware how much time they put into this stuff. I mean, the head coach runs a laundromat every Friday night when, he'd like to be home, but now he's washing uniforms and stuff like that. All right,
Okay.
go on about it.
I heard you guys discussing, anybody got a comment?
No.
Okay. Okay. John?
It looks to me like we may have flipped the athletic director and coach.
No, let me show you the numbers.
So,
This is the number right here.
yeah, that's the coach,
Yeah, and then this, I think,
is the athletic director.
or it might be this number, 56, this is right
Coach has
here.
got 60. And athletic director's got, athletic director, and this is 60.
Have I flipped it?
That's what the school is telling me is in there. I think they get paid anyway.
But it's no big deal. It's the same.
John-
Ends up being the same.
Yeah.
They will straighten it out.
Yeah. I've got it incorrect on this spreadsheet. John points out that the 56,000 is for the athletic director.
But the numbers are still the same.
His numbers are still the same.
Right.
Okay, the question comes, go ahead.
Mr. Manager, I got a question on the bus driver salary here. You got, on this budget, it's $364,000. And is there an increase anywhere for that? Or is that?
That is the increase.
That's the increase
that they asked for.
That is what the school system asked for.
Okay.
And like the chairman said, we had recommended a 6.2% increase overall for them in their operational, and then he went back in and looked at what they asked for, and that's where he put his plug number in, and then y'all are asking for
Okay.
some additional.
And what's driving that is, I think we had the conversation that during COVID, that bus drivers was paid $20 an hour. Is that correct?
Forgive me, I was getting ready to say bus drivers were driving that when you said what's driving that, but
Yeah.
little humor during budget when it's bad.
Okay.
Yes.
But this is covering their,
So during COVID, they had a lot of issues
Okay.
trying to retain staff.
Okay.
And they adjusted the salaries up in an effort to try to keep those drivers that
Okay.
they so desperately needed. And this is the request to be able to continue that funding.
so
for
they're
them.
covered at the request of the school.
That's correct, yes,
That's
sir.
what it is. Thank you.
Is there any other changes as it relates to the funding for current expense under the schools? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a vote. Have we got a recommendation on the increase of 86,000?
So moved.
Okay. Do you have a comment, John?
No.
Okay, all those in favor of the increase in the current expense budget, $86,950, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, and that pushes it to 6.8% is the number that I've got. Increase in the... No. The 6.8 is now the increase. It's not the increase. Okay, the outside agencies, this is on the recreational side. Like I say, for years, I know for 8 years, we've allocated Aurora 4,500, Bass 6,000, Bellhaven 10,800, Chakawinity 7,200, Pantucket 4,950, Washington 20, and Washington Park 16, 1,620, for a total of 55. And when you look at Aurora and you look at Pantucket and Washington Park, to my knowledge, there is no sports programs at all. So what we're really funding based on the request is playgrounds. My thinking is that all three of them are in the same boat and we should be allocating the same amount of money to all three of those. When it comes to the major sports centers outside of Washington, that's Bath, Bellhaven, and Chakawinity. They affect somewhere around 250 students or kids, each one of them, plus or minus, from one year to the next. And I would like to see us increase the allocation to 15,000 for each one of those three, so that we've got things are a little bit more equitable, and we're increasing it versus, what we've been doing for the last 8 years. Under Washington, I'm recommending that we consider a $5,000 increase to 25. So our overall budget for recreation and playgrounds, or parks and recreation, whatever you want to call it, would go from 55,000 to 85,000. One of the things I want to make sure the public understands is that if we have one in the detention center that's a juvenile, we pay $150 a day. That's the county's part. The state pays another $150, so we're paying $300. If we have one that the county has to pay for all year long, that cost us $54,000. And I've been involved in these recreational programs. I've been out there to watch games at every one of these sites in Beaufort County, and I just think it makes good sense for us to try to keep as many people out of trouble as possible. And this is one of my passions, and this is what this is all about. This is the one time that the commissioners have a chance to affect things that are very important to the county citizens. So I'm going to make that recommendation, and the floor now is open for questions, comments, discussion.
I treat this as another feeder program to the next level.
The only question I have is, I'd like to have some clarity on the question that the young man from Bath said about doing some work on the sports field. I'd like to know what is he gonna do? I mean, do the schools own that field, or do this town of Bath own it?
Well, to my knowledge, I think the school owns all of these where they're playing.
Okay. So
Now, I think Belhaven, I believe now is the town.
I mean, it's fine, I understand what you're doing, but I just like some clarity, because that could have been one of their expansion items, also one of their,
I think he explained it in the expansion.
yeah. But is it a drainage problem that he said?
He's fixing the
Yeah,
drainage.
yeah.
Okay, well-
What I have problems with is, over the last 8 years, somebody comes in here, whether it's Shockoe Energy or whether it's Belhaven, and asks for a $10,000 capital project, and we award one, and we don't give anybody else any additional money.
Well, I'm not, you may have a problem with it, and I'm gonna vote for it, but I still want some explanation. I'm not just picking on them, but I want to know, is this schools gonna fix the draining or whatever? I think it's whoever fixes it need to be fixed.
Based on their request, they're saying they're going to do it,
Okay.
if I understood it correctly. Brian?
So, Mr. Chairman, I don't mean to put the superintendent on the spot, but he is here tonight. I don't know if he might be able to clarify for the board the relationship that the school system has with that recreation group. Is that fair, Dr. Cheeseman? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Different conversations. I didn't hear yours. So if you can re-present that to me, that'd be great.
The question was, on your checklist,
Yes, sir.
the drainage problem that you have at Bath football field, was that on your list?
Yes, sir.
It was on your list?
I believe it is.
Okay, that's the question I wanted. So if it's on your, so here asking us for funding to do the same thing.
Well, the difference is the Board of Education prioritizes their capital list based off of need of all schools. So even though it may be on the list, unless that list is fully funded, it might not be an item that the board
That you wanna
selects.
fund this year.
Right.
That's what
And so
I'm-
that's the hard part.
That's the part.
So if you can fund it in another place, that benefits both parties.
That's what I want, that's all I needed to know.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
One thing, sir.
Yes.
And I just want to coin a phrase that I learned when I was on the Partnership for Children's Board. Investing in children makes good sense.
That's all.
Other comments?
When we initially looked at this, I didn't think we were going up in all the other areas. So I thought we were holding the playground stuff as what they were. In fact, I think we even took it.
Well, what I was trying to do was use the existing allocation that we've had for each one of those for the last 8 years and bump each one of them up. It's a change from the first one that I sent to you.
And that hadn't been a change in years, had it?
No. Okay, I'm making that recommendation unless, okay. Ready to vote? All those in favor of increasing it 29,930 to a total of 85, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay. The next one, I had a request to take out the $25,000 that was in the manager's budget for Agape. And so any comments as it relates to that change?
The reason I asked to pull this $25,000 from Agape is a one-time pull, and it was to keep from expanding the budget. The people on the south side have a food program now and then. It was asking for a generator, and instead of expanding the budget, I thought maybe we'd use this $25,000 to give them a $5,000 for a generator, increase the Boys and Girls Club. They're having some pain issues over at the Washington unit, and I'm sure they're having some at the Bearhaven unit. Increase that as $10,000, and there was what was the drug court? What was it, the drug court?
We did that one.
It was another one. I can't think, it lost my mind.
We did that under the expansion, the
Yes.
recovery court.
Okay.
That was taken care of.
Well, I just wanted this for a one-time allocation. Since the recovery court would do the Boys and Girls Club, would increase them to help paint. I would say since we got $5,000 for the generator for the cold storage on the south side group, another $20,000 one-time deal for the Boys and Girls Club.
Where's that cold storage?
Isn't that where they serve their food at? They got a walk-in cooler.
Where?
On the south side, the one that you talked to.
That's in Aurora.
Edwards.
Edward, right outside of Edward.
That's
on the right-hand
that's
side.
where Eagles Wings.
Yeah, well, they use it some too, I guess.
Okay.
And that wouldn't expand the budget. Is there any way we can do that, Mr. Manager?
If that's the wishes of the board. But that agency is the cost agency, right? Citizens owns
Yes.
Southside together?
Yes,
They have that, okay. Just want to make sure.
yes. And they got a cooler, they requested it last year. They got a cooler when the lights is off on the south side, they lose their frozen foods.
Okay.
Just for clarification for staff, you're saying that this would be a one-time allocation of the 25 split up the way you're
Yes.
asking for
Yes.
these two?
Yes.
Okay.
And
What's the allocation, 10 for boys and girls and 5 for cost?
20,
20 for boys and
and 5 for, and I would recommend that.
Okay. Comments? Okay. All those in favor of eliminating, or I say eliminating, taking out the 25 for Agape and adding back using the same funds or allocation. One time Boys and Girls for 20,000 and one time for a generator at Edwards, which is under Southside.
Yes.
Okay. Additional comments or questions? All right, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of making those changes, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, anything else related to the recommended budget that was prepared by the manager? I say by the manager and staff, because I know Brian didn't do all this work. He made it happen.
You are absolutely correct. We have a great staff who does that.
Okay. Any additional comments or questions on this page, all right? The next one is really just kind of a summary of the school funding budget. We always have a lot of questions as it relates to the sales tax and the amount of money that goes to the school out of the sales tax, and how much lottery money do we get, and that sort of thing. So the bottom part is a capital summary, and at the top is the current expense, and that has the changes that we talked about as it related to the coaches and athletic directors, and that needs to be flipped again. So that's a 6.8% increase on the current side. And you can see on the capital, that number is $2,241,000, and that's up from $2,023,000 last year. You can see there's a line item in here for the state funds, and I sent this spreadsheet to Brian and Anita, and because of the way the state holds that money, we decided to leave it out so we were comparing apples with apples. There's a total of $800,000 that's entitled to come to Beaufort County, and it's sitting there as a, or
No,
not out, it's not sitting there yet.
Not quite yet. So last year, there was $300,000 that was allocated to the new lottery funds, which are for repair and renovation of schools. That was a new funding mechanism they set up, $300,000 last year, and then $500,000 this year. But they don't put the money into the account. They only do it quarterly, and then they wait a month after the quarter before it shows up. So we have in that account right now a little over $500,000. It has to be used for repair and renovation of school facilities, and the two boards have to come together on a project so that it gets submitted to the state to draw those funds down. So we don't show it in our budget until there's a project that comes together, because then we would draw it down. So, I mean, and again, you don't even have the 800 out there yet.
And just to make sure that we're all on board as it relates to the sales tax, for the first time, we had to increase the allocation. Anita, was it last year was the first time? Keep in mind, this is the last day of May, and we're projecting what we're going to collect for the next 12 months or 12 months of the year, and then we don't get the final number until September of '24. And that's when we had to go back in and make sure that we've given all of the amount of money. If the sales tax numbers are less, how are we funding? Do we send them a 1/12 of what we project each month, Anita?
That's exactly right. We send them 1/12 both for operating and capital. And so if our sales tax were to all of a sudden fall off to nothing, then we would still allocate what is budgeted for them. It's only if we've not paid them what's budgeted, when I do the calculation for the restricted sales tax, that's when we may have to make an additional payment.
Okay.
Which I'm expecting we'll have to do for the fiscal year that we're in currently, like we did last year. I'm estimating about $350,000 at this point.
Good.
But like you said, we still have 4 distributions to go before I can make that calculation.
Okay, good.
Okay, now, funding this capital budget, I still don't understand this. If I understand this correctly, we're getting more money from whatever that source is that's directed directly to capital than what we're budgeting.
That's right. We're not showing that yet because there hasn't been a project that's come together for the board. The boards have to come together on a project on what you want to spend that for. And right now, there's 500. There's 592 in that account. It has to be used for repair and renovation. There's a guideline that the state lottery requires you.
Let me be sure that I understand this. We're budgeting how much for capital for the schools in this budget?
$2,241,000.
Are we going to collect more than $2,441,000 in taxes, sales taxes, or Chapter 41 or Article 41 taxes, or whatever it is?
We don't know. We know what our estimate is, but if the sales tax goes up, then we're obligated by statute to provide that additional money to the schools.
Okay. Okay, now, all of the money that comes in from the state is allocated against what we appropriate for capital.
So we use the lottery funds that come in for debt service for our schools.
Right, I understand that, but in the case of capital, if we are saying $2 million are in capital for the schools this year. All right, the money that comes in is what, Article 41, 42, that division that happens. Are we going to collect more than $2 million from those two articles?
So we're projecting that in Article 40, we're going to do about 1.3, in Article 42, we're going to do about 2.2, so total sales tax of 3.5. Correct.
Yeah, I can actually,
So it would be 3.5 that the schools are going to get if the projections are correct.
His mic's off now.
Just give us 1 second, she's pulling.
okay. Brandon, could you please bring up my laptop on the screen, please? Okay, perfect. Let me get this so you can see that. Is there any way we can zoom in on this? How do I do that?
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. See if you can click on that. Let's copy and paste it in maybe a Word doc. Where's Word? Where's Word? Where's Word? Microsoft. Where is it? Okay, sorry.
On page 203, it shows $2,241,000.
Okay. All right. Brandon, first of all, thank you for doing such a great job getting that on the spot. So I emailed this to you back on May the 16th when I did some financial reporting by email. So this is my estimated additional payment to the schools for the current fiscal year we're in now. So if we take 30% of Article 40 on what I'm estimating our final sales tax distribution will be for Article 40, that's $1.253 million that's owed to the schools for Article 40. Article 42 is $2,077,000, and then there's $474,000 in lottery funds. That's total restricted revenue for the schools of $3.8 million. And this is an estimate because, like I said, we have 4 more distributions to go. We have June, July, August, and September. So if we look at what our debt payments are for the year for our school debt, that's the $1,780,000. We get to count that against those restricted sales tax funds for the schools. We can deduct that off. And then we also allocated to the schools cash capital in the current year, $1,675,939. So I'm estimating an additional payment to the schools of $347,602.
So we're going to collect almost $2 million in that part of the article, or in sales tax.
3.2, actually close to, yes, 3.3 million.
But the 3.3 million, that includes lottery funds, doesn't it?
No. Look at the spreadsheet right here. You got 1.253
Well, I
million.
can't see it, so.
Yeah, when you add it together, 3.8 is right. That includes the lottery.
There we go. Can you see it now?
Yeah,
Yeah, I can
Okay.
now.
that includes
So
the
the
lottery.
30% of Article 40 is the $1,253,041. The 60% of Article 42 is the $2,077,306, and there's the lottery funds of $474,000 separate.
Okay, the 1.2 and the 1.8 have to go to capital to the schools by law.
Where's 1.8? I don't even see 1.8 up
Well, I'm
there.
seeing 2.0 now.
Okay. Yes, by law, they have to go. to the schools, and so does lottery.
But the lottery can be used for what, anything?
It has to be used for school capital, as does Article 40 and 42. All has to be used for school capital.
Isn't the payment of the mortgage debt for school capital?
Absolutely, and it's deducted right here, the $1,780,806 are the school debt payments.
So we make our debt payment out of that first.
Okay.
And then I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's all right, go ahead.
The $1,675,939 is the cash capital that's allocated to them directly in the budget, that we pay them 1/12 of that each month.
Okay, so if we collect more taxes than what's up there, still goes to the school?
Yes,
And in that example, it's 347.
that's my estimate right now, is that we're gonna owe them an additional $347,602.
So, in other words, that's revenue that we're passing through.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I think now we're ready to move to the enterprise. Let's start with water. And Brian, you and Anita tell us what we've got to do on that
So
as
we can,
relates to the budget.
so we can actually make that one easy for you. In water, the only things that were expansion were related to general fund. The pay study, the dental, and the 401K. You approved the pay study for general fund employees, you approved the dental for general fund employees, and you did not do the 401K increase. So our assumption would be that you would treat enterprise fund employees the same way. So we would carry over the pay study for the enterprise funds, both the solid waste and the water fund. So there are no other requests in the water fund.
Okay, just for the record, can we have someone motion? Okay, we got a motion. Any discussion before we take a vote? Okay, the vote is to approve the pay study as well as the dental insurance.
At the same way you did for general fund employees.
Okay, and this, of course, comes out of the
Enterprise fund.
enterprise for water. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, you want to go to solid waste?
So if you look at your book on page 355, these are the solid waste requests for service expansions. The first three are the ones you've already talked about, so I guess if you want, I'll assume that last motion was just water fund. So if you wanted to take a motion on the pay study and the dental insurance for the solid waste, you see what the cost is, and it's simply because we allocate a little bit of a position to solid waste. That could be the first one if you wanted to do that.
Okay, we got a recommendation. Those in favor of the pay study implementation and adding the employee dental insurance as it relates to the solid waste enterprise, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, now
you're into the one that is listed on page 359, the solid waste cleanup projects, which was $20,000, a request for $20,000 out of the enterprise fund to do contracted cleanup services. This was the discussion the board had last night, where, if you had something on private property that you felt was a significant need to do. I know there was a lot of discussion back and forth about the board. That's what this is. So the board can either take that up or not take that up.
okay, is there anyone that wants to recommend? This is clean up a private property of 20,000. That's what anybody want to move that we do that? Hearing none, we'll go to the next page, 360.
So yes, sir. So the next one is the periodic roadside cleanup. This was presented last night, where the state of North Carolina does periodic road cleanups every 6 months, and this was a request to alternate on that time frame and do it 1/2 mile on each side of the convenience sites, the collection sites, not convenience sites, at a cost of $15,000, and that would come out of the solid waste fund.
I motion.
Okay, we got a motion, that's cleaning it up twice a year, a half a mile both directions for 10 sites.
At all the sites, trying to, and alternating in the off time that DOT would not be doing it.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor of that, Matt, approval of 15,000, raise your right hand. Those opposed? All right, the next one is related to, well, I'll let you do that, Brian.
It's the part-time enforcement officer that was discussed last night, and there was a lot of discussion about that. So if the board wants to take a motion on that, you would do so now.
Last chance, anybody going to make a motion to enforce? Okay, that one will be, go ahead, John.
I think that we need to let everybody know that we're not talking about never doing this. It's just a case that we've got, in our opinion, we got the cart before the horse, and we need to get the policy first.
Well, I think that's true as it relates to the enforcement and the first one, but I think cleaning up the one that we did approve, I think that's here, and, you know.
No, sir, you didn't approve it. It failed on a 3-4 vote.
The 15,000?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I'll scratch that now.
We go back and look at it. The thing about it is the reason I didn't vote look at it. It's because I didn't know whether you hire extra personnel to clean up or not.
No, sir, this would be contract work. We would engage a contractor to do that. We would not hire additional staff.
Well, I'll change my vote then and go in the firm, if that's possible.
So you'd put it out for bid?
We would engage a contractor to do that.
Okay, well, I would change my vote, and that passes now.
That makes it pass.
Okay, we got 4. So that's, okay.
We just don't make mistakes work.
Okay, anything else that staff needs from us related to the budget or the enterprise budgets?
No, sir, I think we're good. What we will do is put together a budget ordinance, which you are required to have. That's the legal document that says how you're allocating funds. We'll set that up just like we do every year. No changes to that. We'll call out because a couple of years ago, you set the sheriff's office at a mechanism where you restricted their funds at the personnel level, at the operating level, at the capital level. We'll continue to set the ordinance up that same way. We'll continue to show the allocated FTEs for each department in the budget ordinance like you've done in the past. And we'll set it up the same way with just these new numbers. And we'll have that for you available Monday night. There is a public hearing on the budget scheduled for Monday night. If the board takes public comment on that, and we'll have the ordinance available for you if the board so chooses to adopt Monday night, or if you want to wait and adopt at a special call meeting later.
Hood?
Okay, the 2 things, can you send an email telling us how much the expansion budget increased tonight, what the total on this was?
I think she can tell you right now, but we'll be glad to send you an email, but I think she can tell you right now.
Brandon, can you bring up my laptop again, please? Sir, thank you. So yes, so I am showing, we started with an expenditure of $69,428,874 as the manager's recommended budget. And once we add all of the expenses that passed here and taking out Agape, the net is $2,491,102. And then there is a revenue offset for that for the DSS portion for the income caseworkers and the social worker increase if they have a master's, and that is $295,810.
So what is,
That difference?
yeah, the difference, but have you got that?
I can get it right quick. That's 2,195,292.
Do it again.
2,195,292.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Anita,
Yes, sir.
I hate to put you on the spot, but I understand the numbers that you just said, 2,195,292.
Yes, sir.
What percentage of that is the cost study effect? Can you do that? You can send it to me tomorrow.
No, I can do it
but-
right now. That's easy.
But 80% of it is employees bit cost fed. Is that correct?
Let me just do the math right quick.
But I still got my other item, Frank.
Okay.
Seventy-eight point 8%.
What was it again?
78.8%.
Okay, good.
Okay, I just took a quick look at the agenda book, and I don't see, I had a motion on the agenda to reduce. Is it on there? As long as you're sure you got it on there. I didn't see it, that's why I didn't see it. Thank you.
Okay, going back to the increases we just talked about, in Brian's original budget that was presented to us, we were putting into the fund balance $2,319,067 was the number. You'd asked, I think you or Jerry asked that question, so. Okay, look, I entertain a motion to adjourn unless somebody's,
Motion to adjourn.
okay, is there a second? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you very much.